What's going on, everyone? My name is Nick Zampaglione. Welcome back to the Zampow MMA show, brought to you by 4th and 20 Media. Let's jump right into it. Fight Island is approaching us. I'm so excited for Fight Island. It is finally happening with, of course, a monster pay-per-view. Another triple header with 3 title fights going on this Saturday at UFC 251. So, of course, be tuned this Saturday for the fight and also the pre-fight show on the Zampow MMA show. And of course, it's Wednesday, so it's another day for the news. Pretty much, again, relatively slow. We just had, of course, Poirier versus Hooker, so cool. And I, talked about that this past Sunday. So let's again go forth and look into news. So I think, again, I've already talked about this before a little bit, but some more stuff has changed. It is about the featherweight division. UFC's featherweight division is one of their top divisions, in my opinion. We've seen Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, now champion Alexander Volkanovski. Of course, exciting fights. I think it's a great weight class just because of the speed and power featherweights possess at 145. So let's look into it. There's been a little bit of talking back and forth between some of the fighters. Of course, this Wednesday, the new rankings just came out, so there's a lot more with some changes in the rankings. So again, a lot to talk about. First, looking at it right now at the rankings, it looks like Brian Ortega has now went down a position to the number 3 spot, which put Zabit Magomed above him at the number 2 spot now. That's a little surprising. I didn't expect that to happen, but Brian Ortega hasn't fought since I think it was just the end of 2018 when he lost to Max Holloway, who was then the champion. So, speaking of Brian Ortega, he has went to Instagram now to call out the Korean Zombie Chan Sung Jung, and Korean Zombie responds. So Brian Ortega pretty much is calling him out for a fight, saying, like, you should be fighting me right now. Why aren't we? Don't be like scared. Come and fight me. But Chan Sung Jung is right now. He's from South Korea, so he's in South Korea right now, and he said, like, I can't just fly over to the U.S. and fight you, but if you want to come to Korea, you're more than welcome to fight me there. So this fight was actually supposed to happen in December of 2019, but Brian Ortega had an injury, partial tear to his ACL, so he had to, of course, not be able to fight. The fight was canceled. It seems like this fight might happen. I definitely want this fight to happen. I think there's both of these fighters are just some outstanding fighters. Brian Ortega only has that one loss from Holloway. Chan Sung Jung is a veteran to the game. He's been fighting for so long. I think he also tells a great story as well. He's ranked number 4 now, just to put that out of the way, but he's been to these high ranked, and then unfortunately a couple of years ago, I think it's a law in South Korea that you have to serve in like the military. I may be wrong on that, don't quote me on that, but he did have to go back to South Korea to serve in the military there. So he, of course, was off of the featherweight ranking list and had to work his way back up again. He's ranked, of course, as I said, number 4. Brian Ortega is ranked number 3. It makes sense for that fight to happen. The other fights in the featherweight division, I stand by it right now. I'm going to say it again, but Zabit Magomed should be facing Yair Rodriguez. Zabit, as I said, is number 2. Yair Rodriguez, number 5. Both these fighters, very impressive records, both having some tremendous wins in the UFC especially. And I think it should, again, play a little almost like a little tournament system. These two fights happen, the winners then fight for the chance at the title, or again, between Zabit and Yair, or Brian Ortega and the Korean Zombie, they can go up. Either of them, if whoever wins, can go for the belt as well, depending on what happens in that. But I mean, we're seeing some of the lower ranked fighters. Calvin Kattar's fighting Dan Ige at Fight Island, headlining one of the fight nights at Fight Island. So I do not see why we can't have the top 5 ranked fighters be fighting. The only 2 that are fighting right now is Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway for the belt, the rematch for the belt, which is again happening this Saturday. So I believe, why aren't we seeing these top 5 ranked fighters, fight? It makes sense. They're very impressive fighters with very impressive records. They put on some outstanding shows. These fights should happen, in my opinion, and then go for the belt. The featherweight division, I want it to keep I want the featherweight division to keep being noticed for how great of the talent they have, you know? And I think putting on some more impressive fights, any of these fighters can easily headline a fight night, as I think all of them have. Yeah, Chan Sung Jung had, Yair Rodriguez has, Zabit has. I don't know if Brian Ortega has headlined his own fight night, but, you know, he's been in like the main and co-main events of pay-per-views, so he can as well. So, or was actually supposed to against the Korean Zombie. So again, these fighters easily can. These are some great fights to put out. Put them on Fight Island, or put them also in the Apex Arena. It doesn't matter. These fights should be happening. But again, I know I've talked about this a little bit before, but since Brian Ortega and the Korean Zombie have came kind of back into the news, talking back and forth, you know, decide to bring it up again, keep light of the featherweight division, keep them in the news just because how impressive these fighters are. The other big thing that happened within the rankings is looking at the lightweight division. We had Dustin Poirier and Tony Ferguson switch. So Dustin Poirier is now ranked number 2. Tony Ferguson's ranked number 3. Of course, number 1 is Justin Gaethje. A big notice is Conor McGregor is still on the ranking system, even though he is quote unquote retired. So I guess we'll see what happens with that if he comes in. He hasn't really said anything about Dustin Poirier beating Dan Hooker, so I know he's really said he doesn't want to fight Dustin Poirier again, even though I think they should. But that's okay. I think the weird thing is Dustin Poirier is actually ahead of Justin Gaethje, and so is Conor McGregor ahead of Justin Gaethje on the pound for pound rankings, even though Gaethje is ranked above, obviously, for being the interim champion. That fight should be happening in September. Gaethje versus Khabib. Very excited for that. Again, the other small little bit of news I wanted to talk about is going to be the smaller arena, or the smaller octagon. So the UFC Apex Arena actually is adapted to a smaller octagon, decently smaller, and it's questioned if that's going to stay or not. I don't think it will. I think it's just easier, and also they're in a smaller arena with 0 fans, so that's why I think small octagon or larger standard octagon fights will always be entertaining. So I don't think just looking at the octagon changes anything. I think Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker would have went relatively the same way with a normal sized octagon, but it's another thing to be talked about right now. But I think that's looking to be everything in the news so far. Again, tune in this Saturday for UFC's Fight Island debut. President Dana White has been posting some pictures and showing the octagon on the sand. It is amazing. I cannot believe the UFC. I'm still in shock that this is happening. I'm very, very excited for it as well. So again, an insane card coming up. I cannot wait to talk about it, going through the whole main card especially, because every fight on that card is so important and so vital and so entertaining. But again, that being said, this has been the Zampow MMA show, brought to you by 4th and 20 Media. Thank you very much for watching.